The car hummed. The highway stretched ahead. Each mile felt heavier than the last. Home awaited, but comfort seemed a distant dream. The hospital visit had drained me, not physically, but emotionally. The sterile smell of the hospital, the hushed whispers. I entered his room and I was in shock. He was shaking, cold and clammy, completely out of it, didn't recognize me. I simply asked the nurse, "What is going on?" She said, "We took him off all his meds cold turkey." I said, "What? He could have seizures." "You're forcing him into withdrawal," she said, "doctor's orders. It's the only way to get a facility or hospital to take him." I said, "You're forcing him to go off his neurological meds cold turkey so you can dump him into another facility." She said, "Yes, I couldn't watch him suffering." As I left, I was greeted with another social worker saying the only chance he had for placement was hospice care, acute care center at this very hospital, but don't get your hopes up. They don't ever take any patients. And then there's Carson Tahoe, but I haven't heard back. I just walked away. Came home, tried to watch a movie. No go. Tried to sleep. No go. The night seemed as it would never end. The morning came, phone rang, and the hospitalist introduced himself. He was very kind. He said, "I wanted to talk to you during rounds, but you were not here." I said, "I'm so upset. First, social services. Second, they take him off his neurological medications cold turkey." He said, "I am so sorry." I looked back at your loved one's chart going back over 5 years. There is no mention of abuse, nothing but a wife asking for help, guidance to navigate through this horrible disease. I can only say I'm sorry we have let you down. He asked me to come visit. I said, "I'm afraid if his toenail falls off, someone will send another call to social services." He said, "I can't imagine what you both have been through, but I can say I am so sorry the system has let you both down. I will be meeting with the next doctor in the AM, so I am referring him to our hospice acute care." I said, "Thank you." He said, "Don't get too excited. They never take anyone." I asked, "Do you think hospice gave the wrong medications?" He said, "Yes." I said, "And the emergency room made it worse?" "Yes." I said, "Okay, that's what I needed to know." He said, "Fire your hospice team." Agreed. I gave him the aftd.org website. They have a professional page. If you have any questions about medicine or anything, he was grateful. Looked at the site while I was still on the phone. He was very appreciative for the information to help him understand my loved one's diagnoses. The next morning, the new hospitalist taking over his care called and asked, "Are you coming up to visit?" I said, "No, I'm afraid," she said after talking to the other hospitalist. "I looked at your loved one's chart. There's no talk of abuse. Nothing. Quite opposite," she said. "I'm so sorry you have been put through this. I can't imagine what you're going through, but please come visit." I said, "Okay." This evening, I called to see what room he was in. They said, "He's no longer here." I said, "That's not true. The hospitalist told me he was." A long hold. I knew exactly what they were doing. The doctor comes on and says, "Kelly, I don't know what's going on, but you can see him and I'm going to take care of this right now." Now my husband appears to have a room. How did that happen? Social services put him in as a John Doe, so I couldn't visit him, but yet I could take him home with me. This is also confusing and added so much more stress and pain. I felt like I was in another world. I went to go see him. I step off the elevator, walked to the counter, saw a tall woman engaged in a heavy conversation about me and my loved one. To the staff, there was even patient family members listening. The man from behind the counter says, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yes. I'm the one you're all discussing." The desk became very quiet. At this point, nothing was surprising me. The traveling caseworker, as she called herself, laughed it off, said, "Come into the family room." We entered a cold, sterile table with a couple of chairs. People kept walking in as if it was their break room. She said, "It's more private in here." I laughed. I said, well, I think everyone knows my story by now. Well, let's get to the point. Carson Tahoe has said no, they can't take him. I asked Elle, can they do that? Yes, she said, all facilities, group homes have the right to say no. I said, what am I supposed to do? She said, well, all hospitalists have referred him for hospice acute care. I said, well, you would think, but it seems as if they never accept anyone. She said, you are correct, to be honest. She said, I don't think the debt is real. I said, I can't keep him safe from himself. Well, if you leave him here, it's considered abandonment. I said, and? You can go to jail, I said. The Nevada State Ombudsman said, you would say that. I got up, walked towards my loved one's room. I nervous, scared. He looked at me and said very faintly, you left me. I said, no, honey, they wouldn't let me come see you. He barely grabbed my hand and said, they keep trying to force me to say, you hurt me. You have never hurt me. I said, I'm sorry. He said, they won't stop. They won't listen. I told them I hurt you. He had a few tears. I said, I forgive you. You are sick and I love you. He slipped away again in his mind, and I went out in the hall like a nutcase who has been going in my loved one's room, telling him I hurt him and keeps doing it. She's wearing black. The doctor came out. I said, how dare you play with his emotions, for God's sake. He's in his last step of the journey. Has he said one time I ever hurt him? No, she said, only the opposite. I said, I'm his power of attorney. Do not enter his room again. Well, I'm sorry. I said no more. You are fired from his care team. Social services is out too. If someone has a problem with that, then call social services and ask them how they explain they don't want me to visit him, but I can take him home. While I was in his room, he became agitated and kicked his blanket off. I asked, are you in pain? He nodded just a bit, and a tear came down his face. I looked at his wet diaper, pulled it off to change it, and I was shocked. Not too many things can shock me anymore. His private area was purple, swollen, rash as well. I asked, is this what hurts? Another tear. I looked around his room, cleaned him up, put a fresh diaper, and looked on the side table. There was a catheter and urine bag sitting there with very little urine. I went out to the nurse's station and asked why he would have a catheter. He has 0 infection, fever. His advanced directives say no testing, invasive period. The nurse said, I don't know, possibly to keep him dry. I lost it. I said that doesn't explain why everything is swollen and purple. Oh, he yanked it out. So I said, I want to be clear. You put a catheter in against his advanced directives, unnecessarily, so you didn't have to change his diapers, and he yanks it out? Yes, she said. I said, I'm his power of attorney. You have said nothing to me about this. He's in pain. She just walked away. I used their phone called. Hospice fired them. Called the Nevada Ombudsman. I asked her if she knew where a particular doctor had gone. Everyone said she left the state because they want you to use their services. She said, no, she's still working. I called her, explained a little, went home, and she gave me hope. She said, I will help you. I need to keep your loved one safe from himself, and you and my staff. I'll call you tomorrow, new hospice. She calls and says, Kelly, I don't know how to say this, but I'm not sure we can help you. I almost just fell to the floor. I'm at an elementary school and overwhelmed already. I said, I'll do anything. Please help me. She said, we have one option. We can bring him home, and my heart sank. And we can do palliative sedation to protect him from himself and you and my staff, but my staff can't be there 24/7, but I know you can do this. I said, thank you. That afternoon, hospice came in pretty quickly after he arrived. Medications showed up, and I'm a wreck. To keep him safe, the medications had to be given every so many minutes, so no sleep for me. I filled the syringes for 24 hours at a time. I didn't want to mix or mess up anything, and sat in a chair next to his bed and set my timer every so many minutes. He had shown up pretty agitated, confused, but I assured him I was there and soon he would be with his family. I doubt he heard me. He was just so uncomfortable, irritated, and in pain. So every time the nurse came, or CNA, to check on him, we changed diapers, washed him up. I would wet his lips and put Vaseline on them. He was never one to enjoy touch, massage his head, or his feet. But I tried. But agitation would set in. I felt so awful when you can't comfort the one you love. This disease was having a battle in his brain. The first week is done, and I look like a horror movie myself. Same routine, every day, all day, 24/7. You could tell he was finally settling down, just a bit. This poor man had been through so much. I prayed to give him peace. Several more days pass, and the hospice social services came by to check on me and him. She said he sure is a fighter. He's definitely in terminal agitation. What's that? My head is just spinning, she said. His brain is fighting to live. He's agitated. His body is weak. His organs are failing, but his brain is fighting. She watched him breathe, took vitals, and said it could be another week. Can I make it? Can I continue to do this? She assured me I could. Asked why the baby monitor was so low under his face. I felt guilty and said, because I don't want to remember him this way. I asked if he could hear us. She said, always assume they can. So I am carrying the guilt of what's happening. The baby monitor and me begging God to take him out of a torturous brain. I walked her to her car. My mom was there. It felt good to be outside. I walked back in and I felt so bad about not wanting to look at his face. So I went to move the monitor up and I was looking to make sure it was the right place. And he had passed. I checked for vitals. Nothing. I ran out. The door knocked on the social worker's window and said, he's gone. She said no. I said yes. She came in and said, you're right. My mom came in. We prayed. The social worker made some calls and I just stared at the wall. No emotion that I remember. But when the nurse showed up, I called UCSF because time was important for him to donate his brain and spine. They did what they needed and my mom and I just sat there. I said he told me in the room at the hospital he saw his parents. They are both deceased. His grandma Hannah. She is also gone. There was a sense of relief, guilt, grief. I could figure out which emotion I was supposed to be feeling. But I prayed for peace. He was now at peace. The crematorium came to get him and bring up to the medical school. I panicked. Maybe not do this. He's been through enough. But I knew that's what he wanted. So UCSF sent their team to take his brain and spine. The bureaucracy of paperwork, money, signatures are the last things on your mind. But the truth is all these business involved in after-death care need their money. And as cold as it sounds, it feels as cold. I needed to clean out the memory of what happened in that room, the attic. I didn't want Alita to enter the room and panic. He was her only papa. He adored her. She adored him. How do I tell this little precious girl her papa was gone?